everybody. Welcome back to another Spooktober episode of We Watch Shudder. Making our way through the month of October, watching all sorts of movies that we haven't talked about yet. Going back and picking up titles from before we started the show. My name is JD. I'm one of your hosts. Who's here with me?
It's Michelle.
It's Michelle, everybody.
It's Michelle.
Yay.
As far as I know, it is
Oh,
Michelle.
it's kind of late in the evening when we're recording this episode.
Ooh.
10:37 p.m. Getting to it right at the end of the day, way back here on the 4th of July. That's right, it's Independence Day as we recorded this. We got to get that out of the way. Every day we're going to let you know
Feeling
it's not October.
super independent today.
It's been a while since we recorded one of these, though. Been a couple of weeks. So you know, we definitely took some breaks. We made our way through it, but Michelle, what are we talking about today?
We are going to talk about The Dark and the Wicked.
Now, that's not two different movies here. This is one movie advertising both The Dark and The Wicked. That's
adjectives?
That's like it's like insidious and malevolent all together. It's dark and wicked. That's a big promise. Let's see if they fulfill it. As always, if it seems, first of all, as if my my attitude going into this is a little off, well, two things. I'm tired, and, well, you'll understand in a minute. The Dark and the Wicked. As I do, I will read you the description from the Shudder website. On a secluded farm, a man is bedridden and fighting through his final breaths while his wife slowly succumbs to overwhelming grief. Siblings Louise and Michael return home to help, but it doesn't take long for them to see that something's wrong with Mom, something more than her heavy sorrow. Gradually, they begin to suffer a darkness similar to their mother's, marked by waking nightmares and a growing sense that an evil entity is taking over their family. A Shudder exclusive. Michelle! Spoiler-free thoughts. What do you got for us?
Yeah, so I really like when horror movies are based in a reality that on its own is horrific, so that when they do start going into supernatural things and whether or not those things are bad and are we losing our minds, is this just grief, is this stress, is this really happening? I mean, regardless, you're still having like a sad existence right now, and I do like that they fall back on still is what a sad reality. That said, this movie starts out slow, and when it starts to feel like it's picking up is when it ends. It starts going uphill, and then I'm like, okay, cool, and then the credits roll, and I was very confused. And I didn't remember much about the first time I watched this movie, and now I recall why, because it just kind of like finishes. That said, the parts that I saw, I did like. I thought it was taken off to go someplace, but it had a much higher score until I was disappointed. So we'll just give it a nice medium 2.5.
Yeah, I honestly, the reason I may have a little bit of a weird tone is because I literally just finished watching this movie, say 10 minutes ago, and between the movies that we recorded for the regular show and all the ones we've done for here in Spooktober so far, this might be the most thoroughly meh movie we've talked about. Like, I don't have anything particularly bad to say about it. Like, I wasn't super offended by anything that happened in the movie in any way. I wasn't put off by any of it. But I also just kind of didn't care about anything that happened in this movie for basically the entire movie. There were little bits and pieces that happened along the way that I thought were effective and interesting, but I wasn't involved at any point over the course of the story. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that even though they don't ever explicitly say so, they did imply a certain amount of Judeo-Christian element to the evil spirit going on here, and we've talked before about how that kind of takes me out of things, but yeah, just thoroughly meh. It's just a movie that I saw. I'm going 2 skulls on this one. Okay. Like I said, there are elements along the way that I did enjoy. I just as a whole, it just did nothing for me. I think you're absolutely right about it. You've said, and I've actually seen other people comment where they're like, It starts out slow, and the way I want to end that sentence is that it starts out slow, and then it just stays slow for the whole movie. It's just slow. Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah. So 2.5 from Michelle, 2 from me. That's an average 2.25 for The Dark and the Wicked.
Out
If
of
you wanna,
5. In
out
case
of
they think
5
it's out of 10, it
skulls,
is out of 5.
out of 5.
Just like Shudder.
Right. Right now, today on the Shudder website, it's a 4 skulls out of 5. I don't know what those
That's
people
wrong.
are talking about.
That's wrong.
It's a little much, yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
if you do want to go watch the movie before we talk about it in depth here, this is where you're going to want to hit that pause button right now. All right, Michelle, I got to be honest. This
Yeah.
might end up being like the shortest episode of this show we've ever done. I don't know that I really have a lot to say about The Dark and the
Yeah.
Wicked, right? I wasn't really put off by anything. Like, it wasn't so overtly Christian mythology demons that I was like, oh God, this is, I just like. But there was enough of that I was, evil spirits possessing people. It's like, I don't know, the atmosphere just never fully rang true for me. I was never drawn into the story or emotionally in any way. It's just, and I don't even know why. It was just kind of there. It wasn't terribly effective. The atmosphere was never incredibly creepy. It just never drew me in any way. What do you think?
I actually thought I was really going to like it. And like I said, I didn't remember it. I always get this movie mixed up with Brightburn because, as we've talked about, those posters are very, very similar.
Right.
And I'm always disappointed that it's this movie and not Brightburn. Which I was again today when I started. I went, wait, is this one about evil Superman? And
no,
this
is a very different movie than Evil Superman.
Yeah, so once I realized, like, oh, it's this movie that I have forgotten about. I don't know. It feels like if this was a line graph, that it would have started at 0 and then it would have just kind of like constantly gone up. And then when you think that it's going to reach a thrilling point, it's just done. Like, it just constantly increases, but it doesn't increase quickly enough. Like, it had so much room to grow and it cut a lot of things out. I wish that they had cut out some of the like lingering slow moments, like all the discussions with the siblings, and like adding that tension is good for like the atmosphere, but it just like kept going and I wanted like some more stuff. It felt like it was going to be one of those movies where it's about grief and stress and you're kind of trying to figure out, like, is that manifesting? Is this like a Babadook situation of like seeing like a physical manifestation? Is it metaphorical? Is it real? We don't know. And it just kind of like
at no
puts
point
it all out
did I
there.
care. Yeah, at no point did I care about what was going on here. And that's good because at no point do they ever really make it clear what's going on here. There's just this weird evil presence that might be Judeo-Christian demonic, might just be some kind of evil thing being interpreted that way by the people who are experiencing it. Who knows? Like, okay,
the dark and the wicked, more like the dark and the disappointing.
Right. You know what I wish they would have cut out of this movie is that shot of the little pasture full of dead sheep. That was terrible.
Yeah, no,
who decided that was good enough to go in the movie? That's what they should have been like, okay, we can just do something to imply all the sheep are dead. This shot is gross. It's not good at all. Now,
you're upset that a horror movie got horrific.
No, I mean it's terrible. It's bad production. Like, it looks
no,
so
I know
fake.
it's very CGI.
It looks like a field of dead sheep from Diablo 2. Like, it's not good. It's not good
Throwback.
at all. To contrast that, though, the whole sequence towards the end of the movie where that poor nurse lady is just jabbing herself all over the face and body with those knitting needles, that was pretty effective. It definitely helps that they did that in some lower light so that you couldn't necessarily see how bad CGI looks better in lower light. You know what I mean? But I thought that looked really cool. There's a guy that blows his head off. I mean, shooting yourself in the head effects. I mean, it's hard to say it, but they're kind of passe at this point. We've all seen that done before. As well, I've seen so many people blow their heads off with shotguns at this point. It's just not anything that might be
Yeah.
something that I should take into consideration at some point in my life. But who wants to start now?
Yeah, good
Uh,
meeting with your therapist. Write that one down. Put it in
yeah, so
the journal.
there were moments. I did really like some of the things they did with some of the more spooky elements. They did some things with shadows and creepy
Hmm.
things in the background here that I thought were really cool, but then just never really amounted to anything.
Yeah.
I just, it just at no point did it fully. I was never engaged by the movie. I was just watching it happen.
Yeah, if I think of all the moments from this movie that were kind of the bigger moments, which would be the mother cutting her fingers off, the
Yeah.
father
Oh,
floating
fuck.
above the
Why
bed.
did you
See,
remind me of that?
yeah,
I
no,
feel
I
like
know
I
you have
had.
a finger
I
thing.
feel like I
I
had
know.
successfully blacked it out entirely by not mentioning it, and then it
Yeah.
just jumped up. Oh yeah, that was rough.
Well, sorry.
Ooh,
But
that was
you
gross.
know, when I think about those big moments, it sounds like on paper that this would be a good horror movie because
Yeah.
there are like so many, and I think that's why trucking along, I was like, depending on how the ending goes, this is gonna be a 3 or a 3.5. It's gonna pay off. It's gonna be just a solid horror. Like we're gonna have this slow build of the stress and the grief and the exhaustion, and clearly there's tension between these siblings. I like that it's that relationship instead of like a woman who went out there with somebody who she loves, like her partner, and so they're
Yeah.
already bonded. Like she's more alone when he abandons her and then goes and kills himself. Like that's even like all of that is so good on paper, and then in execution it never reached a big crescendo. I think if it had had all those elements and then a bigger finish, I would have been more satisfied with it, but it just never really pays off. He's just kind of possessed and then he kills her and that's it. Like what else happens? Are
Yeah,
do
and
they
then
get more
like
sheep? Is now he a demon sheep farmer? I gotta know.
right, and then there's like the dude kills himself. He has a vision of his family being dead, and then he kills
Hmm.
himself, and it turns out it was just like there's no explanation as to why that thing followed him there and lingered. Now is it
Yeah, and
gonna
I wondered that too.
is it
Yeah,
gonna infect his wife and kids now because he brought it there? Like what's it feels like it feels like they took the first half of a movie and made it the whole movie. And there was
that's
too much
fair.
of it. Like if they had trimmed this down from like an hour and a half to 45 minutes and then like finished the movie, it might have been better.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking too. Like I wish they had shortened it and then given me 10 minutes more of an actual wrap up or an explanation or
Yeah.
anything. It just ends and we never know why. And I'm okay with a movie that doesn't explain everything and leaves me with questions. But when those questions are so big that it takes away my enjoyment because nothing really like I can't think of a logic
Well,
and it
yeah.
feels like there should be a reason that these
Yeah,
things
I
are
think
kind of happening.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
okay with a movie that doesn't tell me everything, but I'm not okay with a movie that doesn't tell me anything. And that's kind of what I feel like happened here. You just kind of watch it happen. It like were all those people they were seeing just manifestations of the evil thing, or were they like being
Yeah.
possessed by the evil thing,
I
or
wanted to know if
why
people
can
were
it
real
manifest
people.
certain people and not other people? Why like it just seemed so random and haphazard. Like I didn't understand the logic of it at all. It
Hmm.
all just and again atmospherically, it just never felt. It felt like I was watching a flat drama that things that should have been horror movie things happened in, but they just didn't work.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I think that's fair. I think I like that it was so grounded in reality in the beginning, but then it like just stayed so grounded. I don't know. It's hard to put into words exactly how I feel about it because in the first part I was like, wow, I really like this type of movie, but it just doesn't really go anywhere and
Yeah,
I
I
wanted more. I was actually unlike you very invested and very like rooting for it and I did care a lot and it just didn't pick up enough
it
for me.
it definitely does feel like from the story in the movie, the immediate thing you know is like, oh well, the fellow who wrote this definitely was working through some shit in their life, right? Like they
Mhm.
probably had a bad death in their family where things were very difficult and complicated, and there was a lot of family drama involved with it. And you can see how they kind of tried to then take that as a framework, the emotional, real-life horror of just dealing with that sort of situation, and then amplify it into something more as a horror film, and it just never got there. So I don't really know what else I have to say about the movie. What do you have anything seriously important that you want to dig into on with it?
I am just looking through the writer and director Brian Bertino's IMDb because I was curious because we talked about he made The Strangers, which I really didn't like.
I didn't
he
care
made
for
The
Strangers
Blackcoat's
either.
Daughter, which I didn't like either. So I just don't think I like.
Did he make The Blackcoat's Daughter?
Well, okay, he was producer of The Blackcoat's Daughter, but I really didn't like that movie either.
Yeah, he also wrote and directed a movie called I think The Monster.
According to this. Yeah,
I've been meaning to check out, and now I don't know if I will.
I didn't. I think his stuff is solid, and it will appeal to some people, obviously, because he's still making it. I just don't think it's my type of thing. After watching a couple of his things, I don't think it's for me, and that's okay. Brian Bertino, I know you are listening. I'm sorry.
Right, he's definitely going to take it personally that we didn't care for his movie.
I absolutely would. If I found a podcast episode about me, like 15 years down the road, about something I had made, it'd be like, what? And I would like go to that person's house and be like, I'm so sorry for making this thing that, please like me.
Right?
So, yeah. My brain is its own horror movie, so I think that's why some of these don't scare me. It's always scary being me and needing to be a liked human.
I mean, existence is terrifying. Life is horror. Yep. That's basically the whole thing. Anyway, we don't need to go down that. That's what we have therapists for,
I think we both need to. I was gonna say we both need to schedule some therapy sessions.
I finally got employment back and insurance on the way, so I'm gonna be able to do that again. That's awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah. So coming up tomorrow, we have Lucky is the movie that we're gonna be talking about here. On We Watch. What's the show called? We Watch Shudder. Yeah, that's the
We
one.
Watch Shudder. And I want to say that if this one has been kind of a dullard, tomorrow I have a feeling it's going to get kind of spicy when we discuss Lucky.
Yeah, probably.
I think there's some spiciness in our future.
Oh,
I'm muy caliente.
I'm curious what you mean about that. If you
I know how you feel about this movie, and I don't know if I agree with you.
Oh, wow. Okay. This could be very interesting.
Exactly. You got to loop them back in after this whole, like, us falling asleep for 18 minutes.
I was just going to say, if this movie seemed like or if this episode seemed like kind of a dullard, that's because this movie was kind of a dullard. So, it's appropriate in that sense.
I know. I think, like, maybe we should, when we watch movies that we're just like, about, we should go, like, I don't know, shoot guns at each other or something, get our energy up before we record.
Yeah. You know what? You know what it
Russian
wasn't?
roulette.
You know what this movie wasn't, Michelle?
What?
This
what
movie
was it not,
wasn't The Long Night, which we recorded just a few days ago for those of you who have been with us since the beginning. It wasn't The Long Night. Oh, God.
What is it with movies that have nights in the name? Because The Long Night and Night's End are my least favorite so far. But then Spine of Night, so good. We're just gonna keep talking about like Night's End for the rest of my life. It is just a meme in and of itself. I just keep thinking about the like reality show that happens partway through that movie, and it just baffles me.
Oh my God, it's gonna become a.
I might go back and rewatch it.
No, don't. The more often you do that, the more likely it will become like a weird camp classic, and we don't need to be responsible for that.
I think I'm gonna wind up making a camp classic.
God.
I've told friends to go watch it. It's starting to grow on me.
No, let's just stop right there. That's enough. Say goodnight, Michelle.
Good night, Michelle.